What's up, everyone? This is your host, Ghost, coming to you live with another wonderful video. How is everyone doing today? Doing well myself. Man, it's been a long day already. Goddamn. Yeah. So I know 2 videos in one day. What's going on? Um, I just I was at the gym. I was going over and I was listening to this video we're gonna watch, and I don't think I did one the Barnes argument justice really. Like, I kind of just went with what he's saying, didn't really think about it. In my defense, um I was, what the hell is this? Oh, cool. Sorry, hold on. Sorry, I'm looking at something over here. Hmm. Apparently I'm doing well enough that I could uh or been going on this long enough I could potentially do some what's it gonna call it, campaigns. Uh Rumble offers campaigns. You gotta have, like, apparently minimum uh uh minimum viewership and all that stuff. Um and all that, and they'll give you some money per viewer and stuff, like, it's basically just reading ads for stuff. Like, one is, you gotta have a minimum of 10 viewers, and then you earn 6 cents per live viewer. So, it's cool. It'd be cool if I could get it. Probably won't. It's been, it's all right. Eventually, something will happen. Um. Anyways, what's the thing? Yeah. So today, uh, it was kind of hectic in the morning. Shit was going uh down literally with our daughter having, our youngest having, a blowout. I was having some difficulty getting started, and I don't think I was on top of my A game. When I covered any of this, I kind of just listened and mildly agreed or agreed outright and didn't really give much thought. And I think I might have confused people, as the Barnes analysis was prior to the search warrant dropping. And then in the middle of while I was doing it, the search warrant dropped. Um, so again, I don't think I did this whole thing justice. So I'm doing it again today, and I'm going over to Legal Mindsets page, who covers both Barnes's argument and then also goes over the search warrant. I think he, in my opinion, made a lot of sense. There's some argument between Barnes and his, with the Barnes and Viva Fry, and well, Legal Mindset hasn't clapped back, but they're going hard to the paint on their argument, and I don't know. Barnes is blocking people. I I have an issue with when you you end up blocking someone. In my opinion, makes your makes me feel like, think that your you feel your stance isn't really up to it. So I don't know. That's just me. That could be, that's just me. So I but so I think what I'll do is try and be the if uh what's the word I'm looking for? So I think I'll try and do my best, and when it's covering this stuff, I think I might, with Rekieta law stuff, probably stick with Legal Mindset and Barnes, maybe do them side by side, or uh, you know, cover when Legal Mindset goes anything over Barnes. I think they're both intelligent individuals. They're smarter than me. They're both lawyers, so they're smarter than me. And I can't go rely on Rekieta, because that's who I generally used to rely on when it came to this stuff. So we obviously can't rely on him. So I had to find someone else. Barnes, he makes I don't know. It makes sense. And then I went over and I watched Legal Mindset's video on it, and I was like, well, that makes even more sense. But I guess when I'm out of my depth, I've never been in trouble with the law, so I have no experience with the law. I mean, the most trouble I've been in with the law is getting a few tickets here and there. It's like the most I've gotten. So I rely on other people, and if it makes sense in my head, it makes sense in my head, and then I'll go and talk about it. So that's what's going on here. So we're gonna cover um legal mindset and him doing his thing on the whole thing. We'll check out legal mindset. And then so we're gonna watch him cover Barnes's um we'll see him cover Barnes's what's the word I'm looking for? God damn it. Argument here, his argument, and then we will cover his legal mindset covering Barnes's argument, and then we'll cover legal mindset covering the search warrant. So we'll cover the both of those. So let's get to it. Before I get into anything, make sure you follow me on X at official W Ghosts. That you can check me out there, and also watch me live, as I am currently going live on there as well. If you want to chat with me, you can come to rumble.com /withghost. You can hang out here. You can also go to YouTube .com /at with ghost, twitch.tv /official with ghost. And then my gaming channels are for Rumble is Gaming with Ghost, and my YouTube is at official Gaming with Ghost. So you can check those out there. Oh shoot, actually I'll be right back. I gotta do something real quick. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. All right, I'm back. Sorry, I had to grab an Amazon package. What is going on here? All right. So, I think I got my stuff. So, let's get to it. Let's watch Legal Mindset cover this. Again, I think he did the best analysis so far that I've seen. He seems to be doing it as kind of like how I'm trying to do it, which is nothing but the facts, ma'am, type of situation. But obviously he can do a lot better for me. One, because he's an actual lawyer, and two, he's been doing this a lot more than me. He's a lot more successful at it than I am. So anyways, let's get to it. So this is gonna be his analysis of it. And as is my custom, first of all, I'm going to go 1.5 speed because it'll help with the help speed it along, so I'm not here forever.
Next slide, right? Because obviously we're talking about Nick. By the way, I like this. I like this art here, right? I like this art. I think it's a rather good art. What we've got is a lot of coverage by non-lawyers. So I'll show you this in a second. Oh yeah, sorry. This thing's being weird right now. Sorry, guys.
So right here, he's just covering why he's doing this. Basically, he's doing this for reasons. This is why he's doing it. But yeah. That's basically what this part here is why he's doing this.
Let's see. So we've seen a lot of coverage by non-lawyers, right? And
I gotta say, it's kind of hilarious. He decided to do a little PowerPoint on this thing. It's cute. Yeah, get it. If you watch Fresh and Fit, you would have saw Andrew on Fresh and Fit the other night. So that's another reason why you might notice him. If you watched Rekieta's, before his downward spiral, you would see Andrew on there. He was on there for Rittenhouse and all that stuff. So, so legal mindset. Someone has some knowledge about Rekieta. He's distanced himself since the start of the decline. And and again, he's doing this on a factual basis. He's not doing this on a, oh, hey, just trying to, help out my friend. He's like, hey, these are the facts. This is what we're going with. So I think that's a good thing to do.
The coverage has really been dog shit. And I'm going to get into that. I'm going to show you guys in a second. But the coverage of this has largely been non-lawyers. It's largely been dog shit. And when we get into this, you're going to see how bad it is. And I'm going to show you some of the coverage. It's largely been related to stuff that is speculation, non-legal arguments, stuff that is irrelevant to the legal case. And so that's why I needed to cover this, because it's not really objective. The LawTube coverage has been dog shit. And I'm even including, in a way, myself a little bit, but not entirely. I'm giving myself an out there partially. I try to cover the objective facts. Sean has also done, Sean Potentially Criminal, has done a good job of doing it pretty good. But most other people, I'm going to be honest with you guys, when I look at most coverage, not everybody, and by the way, not every stream, some people covering it, uncivil, I love you, bro, and I told you I was going to call you out. You're in the chat today. I liked some of your coverage, but part of your coverage fell into this area that I call the My Little.
Get ready. So this is just an ad for Rumble as part of their campaign things. Get ready for an unforgettable experience this June. Join us for the premiere of Protocol 7, a true whistleblower story about Big Pharma, and the latest film about Andy Wakefield. Don't miss this exclusive chance to see it first and join Andy and the filmmakers for a screening after or for a live Q&A after the screening. Mark your calendars for May 31st and June 1st in New York City, and June 14th and June 15th in Los Angeles. Tickets are going fast, so grab yours today and witness the film first. Visit www.protocoli7.movie now to secure your spot. That's what you're seeing here on the screen. And so that's www.protocoli7.movie for tickets.
Pony Zone. Or maybe we'll call it Naruto, but I prefer to call it My Little Pony, because for me, most of LawTube is acting like a bunch of bronies. They're acting like friendship is magic. And when I'm listening to the coverage from people in LawTube, whether it is Uncivil, whether it is Joe, whether it is whoever else, even those people that are not commenting on it, all I hear are these friendship arguments. Oh, well, friendship, magic, and that's fine. You can give a caveat. But listen, we are fucking lawyers. We are not bronies. We're not ninjas in Naruto. We're not going to have an episode on friendship. We should be talking about the law and being objective about it. We all get it. We all get it. You're friends. We get it. Okay, that's fine. Go back to being objective and go back to covering the law. I want to see case law. I want to see citations. I want to see, you making arguments about the law, not, oh, this is my friend. That is frankly fucking irrelevant to the legal arguments, and that's not what you should be bringing up. People who are non-lawyers can do that, and there's plenty of non-lawyers doing that. Or you can do that on X. Send out an X tweet that says Nick is my friend. Then proceed to lawyer up and act like you actually got a law degree, and you can go out there and cover it, right? You can go out there and cover it. Now that's fine. Now everybody in LawTube, I may have this reputation as being a bit of a wild card, maybe a bit of an evil supervillain of LawTube. And if this is what LawTube needs, if they need my permission or they need me attacking them and calling them bronies and calling them soft in order to be able to go out there and actually do real coverage, well, then I'm fine being the villain. I am fine being the villain of the story if that's what it takes for LawTube to grow a pair of balls and to start actually covering this legally, right? If that's what it takes, I'm fine with that. I'll be the villain. You guys can all blame.
I really appreciate it. I know a lot of people are Nick's friends, and this is really hard for a lot of them. I think at this point, I've gotten over the pain part, and now I'm all right, let's just try and cover this objectively. I'm doing the best I can, but I'm not a fucking lawyer. I don't know half the things I'm talking about. I'm just, going off of what I'm an average person who's relying on people that are related to, that are with the law. So yeah, I think it's important to find someone that's, putting their feelings aside and just going with the facts, man. I think that's important.
Blame it on me. In all of your videos, you can say reacting to Andrew because he's an asshole, right? That's fine. That's fine. I'm okay with that. I'll be that guy, right? I will be the villain in this villain arc. It's totally fine. So and I'm going to have zero friends in LawTube. Nobody's going to like me. Everybody's going to hate me. It's fine. It's cool. I
like your legal mindset. I like you, man.
do not give a fuck, right? So that's totally cool with me. And once again, on my channel, I know I said, and I screwed up on this, and I'm going to say it. I'm sorry I said it like this. I should never have said it like this. I fucked up. Look at that. How hard is it to say you screwed up? Look, I just said it right there. I said I was going to do one and done. I said that. I admit that, guys. Mea culpa. What I meant by that, and I did give a little bit of nuance to it, is I don't want to make speculation about Nick or my personal feelings about Nick and talk about that over and over again. However, if there are objective legal updates and we're talking about objective law, or we're serving as a forum because everybody else is too much of a scared pansy to do it because they're all being pussies, they're all afraid to talk about this, they're all holding back, right? If they're all going to be a bunch of whiny little babies instead of being lawyers and being objective, I am happy for my channel to be the objective place where we can talk about pros and cons of this without getting all our panties in a wad, right? Whether it's pro or anti-Nick, one way or another, right? It's okay. And I'm happy. If there's going to be a forum for people who are pro and anti and us to vet those arguments, and nobody else is going to do that, literally nobody on the internet is doing that. They've either taken a position where they hate Nick and he's the evil spawn of Satan, Baldo, demon lord of the Sith, or he's the patron god emperor saint and can do no wrong. And who cares if he has, enough snow to ski down Breckenridge, right? Whatever side you're on, whether you're a Nick defender or you're a Nick hater, there needs to be a place for objective information and the filtering of the law and the facts. And if that's going to be just my channel, that's fine. I'm okay with that. I'm fine. I will accept that. I will accept that mantle. By the way, I will get to all your super chats and stuff after. We're going to finish everything before I cover any supers. I know that I usually my style on my channel is to cover supers contemporaneously and all that. We're going to get to all the questions, all the spurging, everything at the end. So I will answer everything when we get through all the coverage, and maybe 1 or 2 hours later.
Now, again, for those just joining, this is Legal Mindset going through the Barnes's argument for the search warrant maybe not being constitutional, etc. Now, Barnes made this video, keep in mind, prior to this law, the search warrant being dropped today. So, be aware of that.
Me scusi, right? Me scusi. And I'm on my channel only going to make legitimate arguments. I'm not dealing with cope. This is not copium. This is not, as the Kiwi farmers or people say it, baldo washing. This is not nose guarding. We're talking about legitimate legal arguments. And I'm going to say this a lot during the stream. But if you hate Nick, what you need to do is you need to prove the legal arguments wrong. If you love Nick, you need to go out there and do legal research and prove it right. Because I'm going to say this right now. I am not, surprise, guys. And I know, look, people know a lot about me. I've talked a lot about my history. I am not a criminal defense attorney. I'm also not a prosecutor. And I'm also not a Minnesota lawyer. Holy shit. I'm not the best person to go into the details of Minnesota procedural law or Minnesota case law. But what I am is willing to actually start getting and narrowing down from talking about literal speculation to legal arguments. And that's what I want to do. And that's what I'm going to do on my channel, right? So that's where we're going to appreciate it. So for this, I think as a preamble, right? As a preamble, I want to say fuck Nick Rekieta. And why am I saying that? Why am I saying that? Okay. This is a preamble. This is very important. Okay. This is not necessarily about Nick Rekieta. This is about our constitutional rights. This is about things that come up in cases beyond Nick Rekieta. I don't care about Nick Rekieta and whether he's based or the Baldo Lord. That's not, I don't give a shit. I really don't. It's irrelevant to me. Okay. It's irrelevant. You guys can go out there and make up your own opinion, be your own judge. Look at that. I'm plugging my own tagline there, guys. And what you need to understand is many cases in the Constitution, many cases are based on really bad facts. Many cases are based on really bad facts. So the people that end up winning certain cases for constitutional rights are not good people. They're morally bad people. But the problem is that the Constitution does not just play into.
I mean, basically to his point is the Constitution, like these arguments for the Constitution don't really come from, it's not something that happened. Like, these arguments aren't being made for individuals that are straight and narrow, that have a clean record and everything like that. It's generally going to be I don't want to say worse, but it's not going to be your average Joe. It's going to be a criminal who's trying to find a way to wiggle out of the punishment he's receiving because the government fucked up. It's what Legal Mindset's kind of getting at here to make it a little, short and sweet. I'm going to let him continue playing, but TDLR. If anyone's curious, if you don't know who Nick Rekieta is or anything like this, and you see this random picture of him holding these purple silicone shit, that's the Baldo. I think we'll get into this in a little bit. I don't remember. But what Legal Mindset's just saying is that whether you hate Nick or like Nick, it doesn't matter, because if the government did wrong, they shouldn't be punishing someone regardless of the individual.
Good people. The Constitution does not just cover the righteous. It covers everybody. It covers the guilty and the innocent, the good and the bad. Right? It covers everybody. And if you want to be based, if you want to be factual, if you want to be different than the woke mob, if you want to be based on actual law, actual facts, you need to make the argument based on facts as applied under the Constitution, right? So that's where you need to make your argument, not based on, hey, I don't like Nick, or hey, he gets really drunk and I don't like that, or hey, he changed. That's fine. You can not like him for that reason, but that's not going to prove him guilty or innocent, right? It's not going to do it one way or another. So my question real quick, and my comments before I start this is all very important. To the Rekieta haters, because I know this is going to get on the farms, and I know they're going to do that. The Rekieta haters, those people out there that do not like Rekieta, because I know there's a lot of you in the chat, and there's a lot of you who like Nick. To the haters, here's what I say to you, and listen up, haters. Listen up, haters. Legal arguments have nothing to do with morality. Somebody can be a totally immoral person that doesn't necessarily win in court. If you want to win, you have to use legal arguments, not a moral argument, not a speculation, not something that's not even going to become before the court. Whether or not Nick is a cuck, whether or not Nick is, doing whatever sexual in his sexual life is completely irrelevant to any of the claims. I don't see how that's relevant to any of the legal claims that have been presented against him. At this point, I don't. Maybe in the future, if there's an extra claim or there's some other things thrown in there, but what?
So another reason I'm liking Legal Mindset's position, I think it sort of changed, not like changed, but like more evidence came. So therefore his position changed a little bit, but he's not getting into the fan fiction. He's just sticking with the facts. And that's all I really fucking want. It's just the facts. Why should I believe Aaron Imholt or whatever the fuck his name, Steel Toe? Why should I believe him? All he's got so far is him saying shit. Okay. Like I don't believe you. Just because you say shit doesn't mean that it's true. Okay, and that's why I'm having an issue. I'm getting into arguments with people, like Camelot saying some stuff. I'm like, okay, well, why should I believe him? Like why should I believe him? That's my issue on a lot of these things.
Nick is facing, I don't see any reason why any of those things that people bring out as speculatory or what they're talking about are relevant. They're not legal arguments. The second thing is that
again, keep in mind, this was like yesterday. So prior to the search warrant being dropped.
Rekieta haters is, no matter what happens in this case, guys, no matter what happens, this is permanent brand damage for Nick.
Oh, yeah.
This is permanent brand damage for Nick. He is not going to fully recover from this.
I think I've kind of touched on this a little bit. Maybe not really, but yeah, no, it's definitely brand damage. Because Nick kind of poured it himself. Yeah, he drinks, but that's all he really does. Yeah, he's done drugs in the past, but, that was the past. Nothing, too major or anything like that. And, he loves his wife and all that. He's good to his children and all that. But that was Nick's brand. And he was, yeah, he drunk, but otherwise he was fairly straight and narrow. And after this dropped, and like he's pointing out, it's his brand damage for Nick, regardless of what happens. So he makes a very good point here.
I would love him to go back to the old Nick. I would love to see a redemption arc. But guess what? Even if he does that, he's never going to be back the same way. This is permanent brand damage. This is not scrubbed from the algorithm. There's going to be permanent videos about this. This is permanently on his record, right? This is a damage. So for you,
it's all, and even if he gets away all scot-free and everything, cleans up his act and everything, it's always going to come back and haunt him. It's always going to come back. Like we were going to be like, oh, remember that time that you snorted coke and neglected your children, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's always going to happen, no matter how well he puts himself back and his redemption arc. It's 100% fact. Is he's going to have issues in the future.
You guys out there, this is out there now. It's done. People have covered it, right? So the PR damage is done regardless of the legal damage. And as we've discovered, and as we cover often on our channels, many of us lawyers, I see Ron out there too. Ron knows this. Ron Coleman knows this. The PR battle is often the battle that is more important sometimes, because that's the battle that's fought. And if you want to beat Nick, Kiwi Farmers, Josh Moon, whoever else, you need to beat Nick with facts, not fan fiction. And that's the way you own Nick. That's the way you dunk on the Baldo Lord, right? That's the way you do it. Now, let's turn around and let's look at the Rekieta defenders, the Pope people, okay? Let's look at this real quick. You guys are not focused on legal arguments. The only thing I hear is people trying to guilt trip me and guilt trip anybody who's covering this into not covering it. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, that's not going to work. So stop wasting your time. I'm going to delete your comment. I'm going to fucking ban you. Or I'll hide it so that you're just responding into the void, because I'm an asshole like that, right? I don't give a fuck about your friendship appeals. I don't care about your morality appeals. Give me a legal argument. If you give me a legal argument, we'll talk about it. If you're just coming in here like, you were friends at one point. No, that's not an argument. I'm not going to go with that. I'm not buying that. We're not going there. So that's not going to happen. And the last part is that without good coverage of this, Nick may self-sabotage. And let me say this right here. Imagine this. Nick, do you think that Nick wouldn't stream this case if it was one of us? Ron Coleman's in the chat. If this was Ron Coleman, do you think Nick wouldn't stream about this? Are you fucking kidding me? Nick would stream about this all day and all night. If this was Dick Masterson, would he stream about it? Yes. If this was anybody else, this was Josh Moon, if this was whoever else, would he stream about it? Yes. Nick would grift this to hell. Nick literally invented the word. He taught me how to grift. He literally just saying grifting is good comes from Nick. So the fact that the Nick defenders somehow think that people shouldn't talk about it at all is really fucking weird. But you know what else? Nick is going to self-sabotage. You know why? Watch this. Watch this. Let me remove this one here. And let me show you this post. This is a post from Nick. In case you know, this is on Nick's Locals, okay? It's on Nick's Locals. So what did Nick say here on his Locals? He said, hey, obviously a lot has happened. I'm sorry. For legal purpose, it must be reiterated that the sorry is for the disruption in no way related to pending legal matters. That said, here's the key. Please realize nobody has the full picture on anything. It is possible no one ever will. Nothing is accurate, and that's not their fault. Here's the problem. If Nick feels like nobody is objectively covering this, you know what this dumb motherfucker is going to do? He's going to go out and cover it himself. And that's going to be the biggest disaster ever. If Nick goes out and starts covering his own case, that for you Nick defenders, that's going to be the worst thing ever. The fact that Nick, and how do I know this? I know this because Nick is dumb enough to be covering his own case with Montegraph. He's been covering his own case with Montegraph, and he's been repeatedly making the same allegedly defamatory statements that he made against Montegraph again and again and again and again, because, well, nobody else is covering it, and he feels like it's not getting objective coverage. I feel like if there's objective coverage of this, he's not going to feel the need to talk about it himself. But if he feels like he's not getting a fair shake, he's going to go out there and talk about it. He's going to go out there and talk. He's going to, no, everyone else sucks. Nobody else gave me a fair shake. He's going to go out there and talk about it. So, and by the way, what do we have for coverage here? I just want to show you here. We have coverage by people like, for example, the Quartering, right? We talk about non-lawyers covering this,
Me.
right? Who's covering this? The Quartering. The Quartering is not a lawyer, right? And I think his videos, I think were up there in views. And then we had, who else was it? Who else was covering this? That was pretty big. I think.
Oh, not me. He says, who else is covering this as big? No, not me. Nope, not me. I am not big at all. I'm just some loser.
You know, so the Quartering, there's your right-wing coverage, I guess, if you want to call it Quartering right-wing. I don't know, whatever the hell you want to guys go. And then your commie coverage is courtesy of Destiny. This is Nick reacts to, Destiny reacts to Nick's arraignment. Got 125K views. These are some of the biggest topics. So you've got Destiny, not a lawyer, with, really bad takes. I mean,
and ironically, kind of Destiny and Nick have become a person allegedly.
And that guy's had some dog shit takes over the years.
Oh God,
he's that guy
terrible
covering.
takes.
So everybody is covering it from every side in a poor way, the non-lawyers. And then even when lawyers are brought up, they're kind of spoken over. Now, I want to talk about the emotionality of this by covering a little clip before we get into the defense. I want to play a little clip that is emotional before we get into defense. And yes, the defense is going to be courtesy of Robert Barnes, right? And from Viva and Barnes, right? We're going to talk about that. But before that, I want to cover a little bit from Kino Casino. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. Oh, Andrew, you're going to play all the salacious stuff regarding Aaron Imholt that was brought up on Kino Casino. No. And that's all I'm hearing people talk about from Kino Casino is all of this salacious rumors, all of these salacious sexual rumors, which are completely fucking irrelevant. What is relevant is the legal analysis. And the part I want to focus on is the part literally nobody, and I've checked all the channels that report on this, even small channels, they're not talking about this. They're not talking about how people are being irrational and not legal and what happened when Sean, a potentially criminal, came on the casino. So we're going to have 4 minutes here from Kino Casino, and this shows the emotionality and the emotional reaction. You're going to see Sean, who is a lawyer, right? Who is a lawyer, and how he's being talked over by PPP and by Aaron Imholt here, right? So here we go.
All right, so I'm going to skip this. It's not really relevant to what we're listening to. I mean, Legal Mindset's making, good, he has a good point here. It's not relevant to what I want to look at. I want to look at his analysis of the argument is, and everything like that. So I'm just skipping over this part.
The pastor alone, and that's the point I want to get to with Sean. Even Sean admitted on the stream, the pastor alone wouldn't be enough for probable cause, right? But people don't want to hear that because you're so focused on the scandalous stuff, the salacious stuff. But it may not be enough. They may be able to defeat that. And that's the argument we're getting to today. That's the argument we get to in the legal defense of Nick Rekieta, right? And we're going to get to this courtesy of Robert Barnes. Let me give a little bit of background here before we really get into this with Robert Barnes. Most of you probably do know who he is. Robert Barnes, he really specializes in constitutional law. Now, you may think he has kooky takes. I saw Uncivil saying in the chat, oh, he's got untraditional takes. That's fine. But one thing you can't debate about Robert Barnes is that he knows the Constitution well. And if you're going to give everybody in LawTube a specialty, Robert Barnes' specialty is the Constitution. Now, I can actually say this about Robert Barnes in a very complimentary manner. I am deferring to him on some constitutional knowledge because he doesn't know better than me. He's got the case law down better than me in some areas of the Constitution. But he deferred to me when it came to the Disney Reedy Creek stuff because that was my specific practice area. In Florida, I represented special districts, so I know better than anybody else about Disney in Florida and Reedy Creek. That was my specialty area. We all defer to each other. If it was maritime law, there'd be legal vices, right? You know, there's many people have different specialties, right? Debt collection is Joe, right? People have different specialties in.
Wait. uh, if you don't know, Joe of Good Logic, he's Jewish, and that's why I'm laughing. He's a debt collector. That's hilarious. Or debt collecting law or something like that.
In this area. And it's okay to defer to people a little bit and listen to them. And he brought up some damn good arguments, some of which I heard nobody else on LawTube make. And I think they're worthy of listening to. So we're going to listen to Robert Barnes today. He's from East Tennessee, by the way, but he went to the Ivy Leagues, you know, for his little bit of a CV. So that's his background. And we're going to go through some basics of the different amendments that he thinks were violated here, because he brought up several amendments. Now, some arguments I think are great, and some arguments I think are suspect, are questionable, right? But I think they're worthy to analyze, they're worthy to talk about. And this was on his stream with Viva Barnes. Now, one thing real quick about these guys, and I want to say this because this is true for Nick too. This is true for Nick too. Like Nick, Viva Barnes is a Rumble show. Rumble shows do horrible on YouTube. And one of the reasons why I am covering this, people, listen up, for all those people, you know, once again, pay attention to the.
I mean, they do like, I think what he means is they do a Rumble flip. They're not just solely a Rumble show. I was able to find Viva's thing on Rumble or on YouTube and watched it from there. So this morning I watched their video right here on YouTube. So I think he's incorrect. I think they do a Rumble flip, but that's about it.
Beginning of the stream, rewind if you want to know why I'm doing this. But one of the reasons is because this is a very good argument, but hardly anybody watch this. I know, but this video only has like 33,000 views. A lot of the videos on Nick Rekieta, including my videos, are getting over 100K views. And that's because these guys are on Rumble. So people, when they watch them, primarily watch on Rumble, not YouTube. But YouTube has a far bigger reach. So if we want to get objective information out there, we have to have it on YouTube too. So these guys being on Rumble is a major factor why people aren't listening to it. They're not paying attention to it. So it's worthy to be talked to here. Also, the other thing is that Robert Barnes goes very fast over the law. So I want to take it slow. Some people are like me and they need it explained slowly. Or as said in an anime reaction clip.
Yeah, right. Explain this to me like I'm retarded.
That won't be that hard.
So some of us are kind of slow. And I'm kind of slow sometimes. So I need people to slow down and explain the basics of the amendment. What amendment are they talking about? But Robert Barnes is going to rattle them off like they're just nothing. So we're going to slow down and explain some of the amendments as they come up, right? So here we go. Here's the defenses, the constitutional defenses as brought up by Robert Barnes. He's being interviewed by Viva Fry, who is a Canadian attorney. Now Viva's not really giving his opinion. He is just asking questions. So once again, don't really not the expert. He's just the question asker. It's Robert who's more of the expert here in this field. So pay attention more to Robert than to Viva, I would say. But I love Viva. He's great. He's good as the question guy.
Of the night, I guess we'll have to address the elephant in the room, which is the news with Rekieta. You put out a post on Locals. I put out my summary just of the legal situation. It's a very sad situation. And someone said to me, "Well, you didn't show this much." Well, I didn't reply to it. I have to stop replying to trolls. And said, "You didn't show this much sympathy and empathy when it was Hunter Biden." I was like, if you don't understand the difference between all of this, then I can't explain it by way of a comment in Twitter.
Yeah, and by the way, look, as much as I'm hard on LawTube, calling bronies and Naruto and everything, it's okay to initially say, look, Nick is my friend, so I'm covering this. I said that. Everybody said that. But once again, you say it, you get it out of the way. Nick used to be my friend, the old Nick, not the new Nick. Frankly, I didn't associate with the new Nick. I haven't streamed with Nick. Anybody who knows me and been following me, right, knows I haven't streamed with Nick for months. Okay? So anybody can confirm that. So, and this is something that is just like objectively true. But the old Nick I did, and the old Nick I cared about, but that's because I thought he cared about individual rights and talking about the law. But obviously that's straight over time. So it's okay to say you're friends with him, but then move on and do the analysis, which is what Barnes does.
But so the bottom line is Nick and his wife and a third person who I don't know who she is, but content-wise, but an internet personality, were arrested on, they got charged with 3 charges. One was felony possession of controlled substance over a certain amount, 25 grams. You'll explain the importance of that. The 2 were gross misdemeanors. One was possession of firearms in the presence of a distance, and the other was child neglect, I believe. From what I understand, and these are public documents, so I don't think I'm saying anything that's not public, apparently there was not a wellness check, I don't know what it is, a mandated monitor who said that they were concerned for the kids being neglected, and then police showed up. This is all in public court documents. They wouldn't open the door, they battered the door down, and they found a bunch of stuff when they came there for that reason, from the warrants. Take it from there, because I don't know what more I can add to the situation.
There are substantial constitutional questions about everything connected to the Rekieta case. So there's been a lot of focus in LawTube on the substantive charges and those that want to make sure that Nick's health is in good state.
And this is very fair criticism of Barnes, by the way. I think this is Barnes very politely saying, now he wouldn't say it like I'm saying it. I'm saying it like, once again, I'm playing the villain of LawTube. I'm the wild card. I'm calling everybody else a pansy. I'm challenging them. I'm throwing down the gauntlet, right? But Barnes is very politely saying that everybody else in LawTube did a shit job of covering the constitutional arguments or the constitutional defenses and raising those, and they focus on the substantive charges. Now, in my own defense, to defend my honor, I did talk about the Second Amendment, and I did talk about how I believe that the gun charge should be unconstitutional under the Second Amendment. I did bring that up. I think that these gun charges should be thrown out for everybody. Once again, this is not about Nick Rekieta. This is about the Second Amendment. I think that the gun charge in Minnesota is unconstitutional. And I think we need to get rid of a lot of regulations. Like, I've been against red flag laws forever, right? I think a lot of our gun laws are unconstitutional, just across the board, period. I think they need hands off of our regulation of guns. And we're going to get into that. But I did not bring up the Fourth Amendment, Eighth Amendment, and other issues, right? So this is stuff that and Sixth Amendment, stuff that he's going to get into. So this is a very fair criticism of him.
It's understandable. But I think LawTube should start to focus on the constitutional issues of what's taking place here. You have a...
I agree with him, by the way. I agree, which is why I'm doing the stream. Thank you, Robert. By the way, I sent Robert a link. He can join whenever he wants. But he's in Vegas, so it's 7 a.m. for him. So he may not even be awake. But I did invite him. He does have an open invite. And if he sees this later and wants to come on, I'm happy to have an extended discussion with him on this so he can elaborate on the law and also just go out and give more detail. I'm fully open to that, Robert. So, just so you know, Robert, we're cool.
Profile critic of the local court system, of the local prosecutors, of the local police, suddenly being subject to an extraordinary search warrant raid and questionable charges that raise questions under the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, and even the Sixth Amendment.
Look at that. This guy's got a bunch of amendments out there. He's got a ton of amendments out there, right? So we're going to go over, all of these, right? All of these amendments. So don't you guys worry. We've got everything for you. So these are all things that Nick could argue if he's arguing successfully. I see Steve Gosney out there. If he somehow pro hoc vches Steve Gosney in as his lawyer in Minnesota, Steve Gosney, consummate defender, would have to argue all of those things. And any good defense attorney would try every single argument, like spaghetti on the wall, would try every argument to get Nick out of this, including all of these arguments.
The U.S. Constitution. Within 2 days of this case, there are major constitutional questions about the conduct of the government. And that to date has not been talked about at great length. So the First Amendment question is, you look at the underlying facts, and I expected to find something different in the probable cause affidavit supporting.
Again, this isn't the search warrant. They're talking about the probable cause affidavit. That's the what we got prior to the search warrant.
Detention. Than what I found. According to the only allegation, there's a lot of false statements being made out there. I love the quartering, but he's been taken in by some of these false statements and false claims.
So there you go. I mean, I didn't do it. Barnes did it. He specifically called out the quarter. Now, I will say once again, the quartering is not a lawyer. So if you're listening to Destiny or the quartering and expecting to get good coverage on a legal topic, I don't know what to tell you, right? I don't know what to say. Or for example, I saw another channel that I used to watch gaming stuff. What, Cheeto? Cheeto's got like 450 subs or whatever, 450K subs. I saw him covering it. I'm like, dude, what the fuck do you know? And these guys are getting basic legal facts wrong. They're just wrong, straight up. So once again, if you're watching legal stuff and you're hearing it from a non-lawyer who doesn't even know the basics of the legal principles, you're not going to get an accurate.
This is why I just, when I'm doing stuff like this, I watch the actual video itself with you guys, and then I'll give my thoughts on it, and I'm probably fucking wrong most of the time about it. So yeah, but that's specifically why I watched the LawTubers share their videos with everyone. Because then at least someone smarter than me is talking about it, because I have no fucking clue.
Great assessment. You'll get the drama
just
side.
No, it looks
but you
bad
won't get
regardless.
Just go to what is actually alleged in the probable cause. We don't yet have the probable cause for the search warrant. I'm very curious about that. But you go to the probable cause for the initial detention, and it basically says a pastor came and reported concern for the children. That normally leads to a wellness check. That doesn't normally lead to search warrant, knock down your door, arrest everybody inside. So my first is, and not only that, there was a week delay. So, I mean, they're seriously concerned for the children, so they do nothing for a week.
Can I stop you there?
So this is a very valid. So once again, what are we attacking? We are attacking the search warrant. This is not about Nick's sexual life. This is not about anything else. This is not about trauma. And no matter how much you like Nick or hate Nick, whatever you feel about these other irrelevant facts, this is about, was there probable cause for the search warrant, which is what Robert is drilling in on.
My first question when I heard that, because at first I read that it was a pastor who requested a wellness check. I forget what the term is. And my first reaction to that was, isn't that the type of thing that should remain confidential? If indeed, I don't know if Nick is talking to the pastor, isn't that confidential or privileged? And not, there has to be exigent circumstances for a pastor to violate whatever rules of secrecy he's bound by.
So let me be very clear here. This is very shorthand, and Viva with his Canadian understanding may be a little short here, but the only real strong privilege is attorney-client privilege. Every other privilege is weaker. It is the beta or gamma to the.
Now, Legal Mindset mentioned this on Fresh and Fit last night too. So yeah, I mean, when you sit like I before too was like, oh yeah, someone like a priest, they won't say anything and all that stuff, blah 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 blah, no matter what you confess. But when he explains this, when Legal Mindset explains this, and it's like there are circumstances that require people to be mandatory reporters, et cetera, et cetera. I was like, huh. Interesting. So yeah, looks like the only privilege you can count on is lawyers one.
The alpha dog, the sigma of attorney-client privilege. Your real privilege is with your attorney. That is the strongest privilege that exists under American law. Your coverage and privilege right now with a pastor, with a therapist, is much lower. In fact, most people would be shocked at mandatory reporting and what they are required to report. They're required to report a hell of a lot more than your attorney is. Your attorney can protect you a lot more under American case law than your therapist or pastor. So that is a layman's understanding. It's actually not, Viva's understanding is like what a normal person, which is why, by the way, this is a good combo. Viva's perspective is almost like the perspective of a normal person, right? Not a lawyer, right? And it's a good question to ask. And that's why these guys are a good combo, because he's asking what normal people would ask. Well, aren't you privileged? Because you assume that all privilege is equal. It's not. It is not equal. The privilege of a priest is not equal under American case law to the privilege of an attorney, period.
I have long opposed mandatory reporting laws, and I understand where they originated. They originated out of concern that child abuse was being unreported by people in a position to know, particularly medical care providers. The problem is it has got to such a length that people cannot seek out counseling. So that
when he says counsel, he means talking about therapy or talking about your pastor or priest. So it's gotten to the point under American law, and yes, Adriana, I've acknowledged he's a Canadian lawyer, so like 4 times. So in this point, it's gotten in America, not Canada. It's gotten to the point where you can't talk to your priest or counselor or therapist because there's risk of them turning certain information over to the law enforcement, or reporting that. So there's definitely a risk of that. So let's continue.
With this, with another client, where I had to advise them, you can't get counseling. If you go get counseling, then you may disclose something to that counselor that can now be used against you. That shouldn't be the case. We're supposed to have provider petitioner privilege, both in the context of ministers and healthcare officials. And yet these laws are overriding it. And it's always done in the name of let's protect children. It usually leads to children being in more harm because people in a position to seek assistance don't. So I've not been a fan of mandatory reporting laws. But the second aspect of all this is what that's supposed to lead to is a wellness check, not a search warrant and raid of somebody.
Again, I just want to point this out that this is this is the day before prior to the lawsuit or the search warrant being dropped today.
But he's home. So that is, I find, and the question is it a coincidence?
So let's stop there. So we're going off. Are the documents sufficient? Now I see some good questions in the chat. I said this once because we'll derail it otherwise. I'm going to get to all the questions. By the way, shout out to all the lawyers in the chat: Steve Gosney, Uncivil, Ron Coleman, Nate the lawyer. I respect you guys a lot, and I will get your questions and comments. So I see you got supers at the end. So I'm going to address all of those after we get through it. We got to get through it in a timely manner, right? We got to run this train on time. We're not doing Italian train time. We're doing like Japanese train time. Okay. So that is a good question. There are questions about the documents we've seen and what we have, what we don't have. So we'll get to that. Those are good questions.
The judges involved, apparently, in this effort are judges that Nick has been very publicly critical of and questioning not only their competency but their ethics.
This is
now I question it. Oh, wait, hold on.
True. Now this is a factual statement. Nick has come out and made very salacious statements about this, specifically the female judge that he's made.
So yeah, when I covered this first, I didn't think that was accurate because I hadn't heard anything. But yeah. In all fairness, I haven't been watching Nick's streams. I think I stopped really watching them 6 months ago or something like that. So in all fairness to me, like the only time I heard him say anything negative about the judge was that the infamous stream now, where he said something like, she's wrong or something like that. But there's apparently he's said a lot more. I didn't know this at the time.
Extraordinarily salacious statements on, which are all across the internet, which are a matter of public record now, because they've been spread so ubiquitously across the internet, including some very, very vile statements that were made about the judge, the criminal judge is seeing his case, as well as overseeing his civil case with monograph. So that is a fact. Once again, I'm calling balls and strikes. That is something against Nick because he made the poor choice of saying public statements on the internet about a specific judge and also about the prosecutors.
Yeah, it's
the prosecutor's office that Nick has been publicly critical of.
Which is ironic too, because Nick has always said, don't do that. Don't say negative things about lawyers or judges. If I remember correctly, Nick used to champion, hey, don't say negative things about the lawyers and judges because you might end up in their courtroom one day. Apparently, cocaine has made Nick not take his own advice.
Exposing issues of corruption and competence, and a police department he has been publicly critical of exposing corruption and competence.
And to stop you there for a moment, because I heard the same thing as well, and I had the same queries that you had. Apparently, the judge assigned to Nick's criminal case is the same judge who's involved in his civil case, the defamation case, where he's been a vocal critic of her. And I had the same question, like, how the hell is a judge doing both criminal and civil? But many people say it's a small town, so maybe they're not.
Well, that's the issue.
So yeah, that's very common in a very small location. Nick is not living in New York City or LA. He's living in the middle of nowhere in Minnesota.
The biggest high-profile critic in a small county of all these powerful actors. Like people ask me now and then, why do I live in Las Vegas? It's because I don't practice law in Las Vegas. I don't practice law in the state of Nevada. It provides a degree of protection from if you know anything about Las Vegas police, you would know you don't want to be. If you want to practice law in Nevada, don't live in Nevada.
I mean, interesting strategy. I honestly, I've never heard of that before, but bold move there, Cotton. All right, I see you, Barnes. I see what your point is here. I mean, fair enough.
We'll get to that when we get to the Gruden case a little later on.
We're not.
But so I have First Amendment case questions. I mean, were biased, prejudiced, partisan officials part of the entire process? We'll get to this when we talk about the Trump case in authorizing and approving this extraordinary search warrant. Then you get to and that could be discriminatory, selective, disparate under the First Amendment.
Nick would need to prove that. I mean, you need to find some evidence of that. But if you did find malicious intent, yes, well, sure, right? But once again, it's finding that. It's just like with defamation, right? Shout out to Nate, right? Nate the lawyer out there. Finding malicious intent for defamation is hard, right? So I mean, the point is that like when you're going and looking for these things, when you're searching out these things, you need to say, okay, I'm finding malice, I'm finding intent on the part of the judge. Yeah, we can speculate about that, but now you got to prove it. If that's your defense, if that's one of the arguments.
Legitimate issues that also President Trump has raised in all of his cases. Then you get to the Second Amendment issues. I was curious, I was like, why is there a gun charge here? He legally had the right to possess the guns. He's got no criminal history of any category. And I thought, well, there must be something in the probable cause for detention that will say the guns were in the presence of the children or something like that. Nope. It's in his private bedroom, his personal bedroom. In the bathroom of that bedroom is where they found the substances and where they found a gun and some ammunition. It's like, how is that grounds for under the Second Amendment to charge anybody with a crime?
Once again, I think I have a print. My problem with it is just the whole statute and the regulation under the Second Amendment. I think a very broad scope of authority constitutionally for the Second Amendment. So I don't like that gun charge existing, period. I don't want it enforced against Nick or Bob or Jim or Morfarius or whoever, right? Or Somali refugee number 62. I don't want that charge applied to anybody. So if we're gonna go with a constitutional challenge to the gun charge, cool. But once again, you're going for a broader scope than just Nick Rekieta, right? You're not making an argument about Nick Rekieta. It's going even further than that.
And then you have the bail provisions that say because you have been charged with this crime, you have no Second Amendment rights. You lose your right to possess a gun in Minnesota under their regular routine conditions.
So that's an argument that the conditions of bail are unreasonable. So that would be an argument. That you can make constitutionally, right, under the Eighth Amendment, right? Because the Eighth Amendment, for those that need a reminder, for those that don't know, let me stop sharing this and go over and give you a little bit of education, because this is an legal education channel. I sometimes forget that. But the Eighth Amendment is excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishment inflicted. It's a very simple.
This is also something that this is something that Nick brought up while he was bringing rain. He said it was an Eighth Amendment this was something he argued. He objected to the bail conditions. I think the bail fine, at least, as it imposed cruel and excessive fines.
Full amendment. But the question is, what is excessive bail? Can you have, as a condition of bail, should we have, as a country, should we have a deprivation of our constitutional rights? That is, our rights under the Second Amendment. Is that excessive? Is depriving us of our right to bear arms excessive under the Eighth Amendment? Honestly, in my personal opinion, I think you shouldn't be able to deprive people of their Second Amendment right. That's my personal opinion. Some people may come up and say, or my legal take on that, right? I would take as a position, I would defend the position that it is excessive to deprive someone of their Second Amendment rights, because I think the Second Amendment is important. If you talk to, David Haas or whatever that kid is, or the Hog or whatever that Parkland kid, he would disagree with me. He's not a lawyer. He's just some, anti-gun chill, but people would disagree with that position. So we can argue that one, right? But that's one of the arguments there, right? And that splits on your Second Amendment.
Of Bay, Minnesota. That strikes me as violating the Second Amendment. And we've discussed this before. Remember the Oklahoma case, other cases. There is no constitutional history, and that's the standard under Bruin, of criminally punishing someone merely for possession of a gun, merely because they've also been charged with possession of some illegal substance. It's only been illegal use of a gun at the time you possess or are under the influence of illegal substances.
So what he's saying is we're punishing people for use of drugs, not use of the gun. See, to me, I would actually agree with Barnes here. If you are going to take away someone's Second Amendment rights, it should be because they do not know how to use a gun. It should not be for something unrelated to use of that firearm. It should be because they were drunk in firing off, guns, or they were using drugs while using the firearm. If there's proof of that, well, yeah, sure, take the guns. I mean, then you're gonna have more of a reason to deprive them of their Second Amendment rights, right? That's a different story. But if it's unrelated, that's why I am so strong against things like red flag laws. Red flag laws have fucking nothing to do with the use of guns, but people can take away.
Oh my God, I fucking hate red flag laws. Red flag laws are just blatantly unconstitutional. It's not even close to being anywhere near unconstitutional. It's because it does have nothing to do with what you use if you're using the gun wrongly or anything. It's just how other people feel about you. That's all it is. Oh, I fucking hate red flag laws.
Your Second Amendment rights.
And I know I'm not really talking too much. I'm really just letting this play because, again, these people are a lot smarter than me. I'll make my comments when I feel like I have something to offer, but really I'm just going to sit here and listen again. And, oh, shit, does he have a lazy eye? I never knew Legal Mindset had a lazy eye. He has a lazy fucking eye.
For stuff that is unrelated to improper use of a gun. If you are going to deprive someone of a constitutional right, it better be related to their exercise thereof. Does that make sense? Are you guys getting that? Are you guys high IQ enough?
No.
Or you guys need to tune back into some, red meat and potatoes drama stuff? You guys got to go back to the quartering, maybe Cheeto or something like that. You guys following that argument? You got it? In the chat. 39 IQ.
Am I the only one who thinks he has a bit of a lazy eye? Because, like, one will, like, kind of kink, and then this one will go, like, all the way.
Emojis. If you guys are above 39 IQ, did you get that? Want to make sure. All right, let's get back to this. Let's get back to this show.
Or under the influence beyond the range of what's illegal, such as alcohol, and usually in a public place. And so I think that the criminal charge of the gun charge against Rekieta patently violates the Second Amendment rights. I think the bail condition violates the Second Amendment rights.
Well, the gun charge is misdemeanor, so 364-day maximum sentence. The big one is the possession of controlled substance.
They use it as an enhancement for sentencing purposes on the drug charge. So there's a dual level influence of that particular aspect. And there's no allegation of any illegal use of a gun. No allegation that he used the gun in a public place. No allegation that he used the gun while under influence.
The report mentioned a spent shell, which was near the Glock, which I don't. It sounds scary. Was he discharging the firearm in the house? The bail, Robert. We had the same two questions, I think, as well. And if I made a mistake, I'll correct myself on Twitter. They were saying 50,000. What was it? Unconditional. It was a UR. It was an acronym they used, and it sounded like it was $50,000 bond or all of these conditions. When in reality, what was agreed to was 50,000 and a bunch of conditions. Correct?
No, it's or. So,
and this is something I actually learned from Barnes because I didn't know this is pretty unique to Minnesota. Most other states don't do this shit. Most other states do not do this. This is relatively rare. So this is very interesting to me. The construction here in Minnesota, where there's an or. So it's money or ROR, released on your own recognizance.
So it is unique. Most states, that's always an and. In Minnesota, I can tell you why they're doing this. They're doing this to evade constitutional challenges. Though it actually they don't evade it in the process because.
And to be clear, guys. Bail and what is excessive bail and the concept of bail is highly controversial, both from a political point and a legal point. There's a lot going on when it gets to bail, right? So this is a huge argument. This is something you can argue in court. There's ways to make legal arguments regarding the excessiveness of bail because we have the Eighth Amendment.
Impose a monetary fine on the assertion of your constitutional rights or remedies. That would be a form of unreasonable bail under the Eighth Amendment, just as it would be an excessive fine if it were a fine as some form of civil or criminal punishment under the Eighth Amendment. What they're doing is they're setting themselves up to make it easy. Say you didn't have to apply any of these conditions as long as you posted bail. They give the two options: either you post bail and then you have no conditions on you, none, or you agree to the conditions and then you're out on your personal recognizance and you don't have to issue. And the theory
this is so either you accept the conditions or you pay. Right, so it's an or, right? And if I made a misstatement about this, I'm sorry, I may have made a misstatement about this at some point, but this is the case, and it is clear from the documents that it is an or, right? That is very clear.
Yeah, I thought it was an and thing too. I won't play it, but if you want to come, I'm gonna make sure to link all this in the actual my videos and shit, but or my description. I'm just gonna strictly go with his analysis because later on he brings on a bunch of lawyers and they have a discussion, and whatnot, and some lawyers disagree with Barnes here. They say that it's not unconstitutional because of what Barnes just said was like he willingly gave up his rights to those ones, so it's not unconstitutional because he had the option to. That's what they're saying. They're just basically making the argument that Barnes just said himself. I don't know what side you're gonna land on, but I mean, it kind of, as much as you may not like it, kind of makes sense to me that, if you have the option to either pay the fine or give up your rights and go on your own recognizance, it kind of makes sense that it can't be unconstitutional as it is something that you decided to choose. Like Nick could have gotten 10 grand for him and his wife and gotten himself out of jail that way and then not have to deal with any of these any of this shit. Or any of the what's the word I'm looking for? Any of the conditions of release. He could have done that, but he didn't, and decided to accept the conditions. Or really, it seems like a way to get past that Barnes' legal argument.
Theory is that either one will secure your appearance later. How does taking away somebody's Second Amendment right secure their appearance?
Well, but then, I mean, why wouldn't
I agree with that, by the way. What the fuck does your Second Amendment right have to do with whether or not you show up for court? Like,
now I agree with I know what I just said, but I agree with Legal Mindset here and Barnes saying, what does that have to do with securing your appearance in court. I agree. But if I remember correctly, they made the argument saying that, whether you agree or not, it is basically them giving up their rights, and they willingly waived it with that option. So I don't know. I don't understand, like, how it makes it that way. But I don't fucking know. But I think the lawyers who made the argument saying that, yes, he willingly gave up his rights X amount or this way, that should be, then that's good. I mean, it makes sense to me. I'm just going off of what makes sense to me when I hear it.
If you have guns, is that going to change whether or not you come to court? What are you going to bunker down and not show up for court? By the way, try to win against the SWAT team and the, ATF and stuff like that. That hasn't gone well, right? See Ruby Widge and Waco for details, right? You bunkering down is not going to keep you out of court, right? So depriving someone of their Second Amendment rights is not reasonably tied as a condition of bail. I don't think it's just, and I don't think you're allowed to negate one constitutional right for another interest, which is less than a constitutional right.
I thought they were alternative, and then I thought they were cumulative when they were agreed to. It was 50,000 bond, which he would have only had to post 10% and get the rest by a bonding company, or these conditions,
depends on the jurisdiction. There's some places that are pure cash bail.
Okay.
You have to post the whole amount. I think in Minnesota you can get a bond agency to post.
I don't know. I don't know.
He agreed to the conditions, which include travel restrictions, drug testing. What else?
But also loss of gun rights.
Well, my own question was, independently, what happens if someone's out on bail and then there's a random drug check or alcohol test check, and they
try to do it. That raises separate Fourth Amendment issues. Always has. Drug testing.
Fourth Amendment, real quick, because once again, see, Barnes just says this shit and he assumes that we're all high IQ. When really the truth is we're all not better. I mean, all of us are barely better than us. We're all just barely evolved apes, guys. So what we have here for the Fourth Amendment, for those who may not know, the Fourth Amendment is the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures that shall not be violated. Shall not. And no warrant, so no search warrant, shall be issued but upon probable cause supported by a oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons and or things to be searched. This is the Fourth Amendment. This is what he's bringing up, and this is a very important right. And once again, whether you like anime, it's just thinking anime right now. Somebody in the chat anime got me right now. Whether you like Nick Rekieta or whether you hate Nick Rekieta, the Fourth Amendment applies to everybody. It applies to you, it applies to me, it applies to grandma, it applies to your worst enemy. And we need to be fair and we need to be just in our application of the Fourth Amendment. And that is what the question comes down to. Was this search reasonable or unreasonable under the law? Not according, by the way, to what Aaron Amolti said. Because remember, Aaron Amolti was not the person, as far as we know, as far as all the information we have. Aaron Amolti, whether you believe Aaron Amolti is a cuck or a sex god, who cares? He is not the basis for the search warrant.
It's
so
Haramoto is apparently like Schrodinger's sex god or whatever. He's either a cuck or he's a sex god. He's making like different statements.
Whatever you feel about him, because everybody on LawTube, everybody on the internet, the corner, and they're all going off on Aaron Amolti, who's the former wife of April Amolti, who was one of those that was found with Nick, and one of those who had charges against her but were dropped, who, allegedly there were dubious sexual things going on between April and Nick, whatever, who cares?
I haven't discussed any of this. I don't think it has any relevance to the actual legal case. It was mentioned in the search warrant. I still don't think it has any actual merit to the legal case at hand, because he's not charged with adultery or anything like that. So I haven't really talked about it. And again, there's really no proof of it. It's just so what I'm looking for. It's God, what the fuck I was gonna say? I'm mind blanking. Blank mind. Dumb kill. Dumb ghost. I fucking don't remember.
It's not relevant to whether this was a reasonable search or seizure, right? And his testimony is not the basis of the search warrant. It just isn't. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether he speaks to cops now, because the search already happened. So whether or not Aaron goes to the cops tomorrow or today or even yesterday, the search already happened. So Aaron's testimony is too late. If he actually wanted to matter, he would have brought this up beforehand. They would have based the search warrant on what Aaron said before, but that's not the case as far as we know, based on all the information we have. Now, do we have all the information? No. But what we do have doesn't say anything about what Aaron Amolti said. So in terms of what the reasonableness of the search, we cannot base this on the statements of Aaron Amolti. We can make moral judgments. We can make fun of Nick. We can make memes. Let the memes flow. That's fine. But we can't make legal conclusions.
On bail, to me, is also unconstitutional. It's arisen in the probation context, even. The Ninth Circuit called it an unconstitutional condition. So in my view, that's, again, and what they're trying to do is use scandalous or sensational facts to slowly strip us of all of our liberties.
So in this case, the scandalous and sensational facts he's talking about are what Aaron Molte's talking about. So all of the stuff that Aaron is saying is distracting people from the legal reality, because that's not the legal analysis. So by focusing on that, by spurging out over that, is not going to win you your argument. So Nick haters, if you want to prove your claim, go make Kiwi farmers. I'm saying to you, Josh Moon, go make a thread that defeats the Fourth Amendment arguments. By the way, I'm happy to read it. I am happy to read any sort of argument defeating or have people on. And I told Ron, after I finish up this whole thing, I'll have him on. I have no problem at the very end of the stream bringing him on if he wants to try to make an argument, or some other lawyer who's out there wants to try to make an argument at the end of the show. That's fine. That's fine with me, right? I'm happy with that. I'm happy to go on and host both sides of the arguments. I'll read it. I don't care. But make the argument legally, not just because you're laughing at him and you have some funny facts about his personal life. That's not going to make your argument of the Fourth Amendment.
And rights. They're trying to use bail as a control mechanism. And so that's its own independent problem. The same with controlled substances. For those folks out there that might be like, well, I really hate particular substances, don't think person should ever use them. Okay, just remember, right now the state of Pennsylvania has already said that having Amos Miller's raw milk in your refrigerator is the exact same as having any illegal drug in your possession. Now imagine if they could use, you have Amos Miller's raw milk in your fridge as grounds to strip you of all your Second Amendment rights. And then we get to the next charge, the child endangerment charge. I assume there was some connection. There's none. They're simply saying, if you possess an illegal substance, we're going to call that endangerment of a child. And it's like, that strikes me as a Fifth Amendment violation. Because under the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, the most fundamental of all fundamental rights under the Due Process Clause, as the Supreme Court itself has acknowledged many times, is the right of a parent for control, custody, and care of their children, for them to make those decisions. That can only be invaded if you showed harm to the child. There is no allegation at all that he has caused any harm to his children ever.
So we don't have all the facts yet. This is a good one. This is a very good point, especially regarding the children. We need to see what's there. Now, Minnesota does make a presumption of harm. So this is something where I don't know if Robert knows this or not, but Minnesota makes a presumption of harm if you are using drugs in front of the kids. Now, I don't know whether Robert knows this. So once again, I'm being fair here. I'm not just saying Robert, I'm not just kissing Robert's ass. He may not know what he's talking about with this. I don't know whether he knows this Minnesota law. Minnesota makes a presumption of harm to the kids if you are using drugs in the presence of the minor. So in their statutes, that's a presumption. So is that an unconstitutional presumption? Well, now you've got to go and overturn that statute. That's going to be harder for Nick to do. It's much harder to overturn an entire statute than to prove it under the existing statutory scheme. If Nick's got to go out there and prove multiple statutes are unconstitutional, right? The statute regarding a presumption of harm if you're using drugs in front of the kids, the gun statute, that's a lot. Nick's going to need a very good lawyer. By the way, we're going to get to Nick's choice of lawyers later. All you people out there thinking I'm holding back on Nick, just literally, hold yourselves. All right. We've got more of the show. We're not even halfway done yet. Okay. So let's continue here.
And now, so let me.
That's according to the government. I'm just going with the government's own probable cause declaration.
Well, no, and that's what I was going to say. Is like there's a lot of, say the quartering, for example, says Nick has been blackout drunk, and then 4 hours later talks about driving his kids around. You're not sober within 4 hours, whatever. A lot of other people have seen what I'll call the public meltdown, which I think is related to alcohol abuse at the very least, and infuse that or combine that. Whereas from the state's perspective, that it's not like they even referenced the streams.
Exactly. If that was the basis, it would have been in that. See, I thought they had some independent basis for this. They had none. All they did is some. And this will get to the Fourth Amendment issue now. I thought there was something more here. Not, okay, you found something in a dude's bathroom, and that's it. All of a sudden, you're going to take that as a ground for a search warrant. You're going to take that as a ground to take away Second Amendment rights. You're going to take that as grounds to take away care, custody, and control of children. You're going to use that to let child endangerment. When the child, I read the statute requires the child be in the presence. They're interpreting that so broadly that they can basically take away anybody's child if any substance you're using they don't like. And remember, the state of Pennsylvania includes Amos Miller's raw milk in that. That's how nuts some of this is. It violates constitutional rights, and they're using the scandal and sensational facts, and people like the quartering misunderstanding the facts to try to get away with a severe deprivation of constitutional liberty.
Well, now, once again, he's dunking on the quartering here. Quartering's not a lawyer, but also Barnes' analysis isn't perfect either. But he's raising valid questions. He's raising questions that we as lawyers, we as LawTube, need to answer. So. People can say, and I saw people in the chat, Nate the lawyer's asking good questions there. Ron Coleman's asking good questions. Steve Godley's asking good questions. That's fine, but we need to actually talk about this, right? We need to have this argument about whether these are good or bad arguments. We need to have the prosecutors, and Nate was a prosecutor. We need to have people arguing these points and flesh these out. That is the purpose of LawTube. That's why we're here. And if we're not doing that, what the fuck are we doing? Why are we even on the internet? I mean, we really, it's a shame to our channels to not be robustly debating these points. This is why we exist. This is literally why we're here. The point of our channels.
I think a lot of people are joining what they know personally and what they've witnessed over the last little while with the law. So they're saying, okay, well, I know all this stuff.
That's where they're like, no one has witnessed anything bad, but I assume they have these facts. They don't. Anything negative towards the children at all, other than they thought the house was messy. And I was like, hold on a second, that's not grounds of or alleged child endangerment. I mean, then I commit it every other day if that's the case.
And like that, the document says, dirty dishes and the house is sort of in disarray. I'm like, crap, if someone comes through this at my house and says there's dog poo and streaks of dog, they won't know it's dog blood. But like one of our paralyzed dogs, she sometimes bleeds and drags her feet around. And that much, I'm very skeptical of. I think what a lot of people are doing is merging what they have seen personally and publicly of Nick with these charges.
In the live chat where people saying, "Well, I know this in general about people who have problems with alcohol or drugs or gambling or other abuse, addiction-related issues." Causing issues with children. Yeah, we'll presume things like that. We don't assume that everybody that has an issue, that you have to prove it with actual facts. And that's the problem here.
Well,
now we get to the Fourth Amendment problem next.
Oh, before you get to the Fourth Amendment, just throw this in because people say, look, a pastor was so concerned. He said a wellness check on the kids, and there has to be a good reason for that. Who the hell knows what information the pastor had? But we are living in a world.
We don't know that yet. We need to know that. That is relevant information. And by the way, that's going to come out eventually. I think one of the reasons why this came to a pastor is the person who reported this was afraid to, the person who told the pastor or passed the information to the pastor was afraid of doing it themselves and afraid of their own identity coming out there, right? So we're going to figure it out eventually. I mean, if this went to court, we're going to eventually have to have some testimony, right? So this is going to eventually be unraveled a little bit more than it is now.
I'm not trying to be over cynical.
I thought that was more detailed. That's what I thought. Okay, this is a detention warrant. This is saying this is the grounds for all of this. And I thought, okay, there's going to be a lot of details of what the pastor said that really precipitated serious concern, and it's not there. I was stunned it wasn't there. I was like, wow. They saw this as an opportunity to go after one of probably their biggest critic, given how small a county they are. Their biggest critic. They're like, this is a chance to shut him up and punish him for yipping about us for years. That's what I see, because that pastor's complaint was more like, hey, I got a basic concern. It was not, here, this specific. Nothing like that was there.
And people can say, I see some of the chat, you're defending them. Even, first of all,
this is so funny. It's so funny, guys, because it's like the chat right now. I love you guys, but I see you. You guys aren't even listening to the whole stream. You haven't even finished the stream, and you're already prejudging what we're doing or what I'm doing or what they're saying before you've listened to everything. I'm being very serious, guys, and this is for everybody. This is for Rekieta simps and Rekieta haters. Either way, you guys need to shut the fuck up and listen. And look, I don't curse this much usually, but it really is annoying that people will not listen and just shut up for a while and pay attention and then make your argument. And then I'll listen to you. And that's why I'm holding super chats, because I want to hold super chats till we get to the entire argument. So you've heard everything. And I'm applying this equally to both sides. I'm not giving one side more opportunity to speak than the other. You both have to wait, right? I don't care. I don't care whether you hate Nick or love Nick. I really don't. It's completely fucking irrelevant, right? And this is something that I do see happening, and they're seeing it happening in the chat.
Care less about those people. So I care about constitutional liberty. I want Nick to do well. I want him to get good counsel, all those things on a personal basis. But we're not the shrink show, nor are we the moral judgment show. We're the law for the people show. And we care about constitutional rights and liberties. And guess what, folks? You dig into a lot of constitutional rights. Miranda wasn't the sweetest human being on the planet. So, you get people that some of our core constitutional rights when they want to eviscerate our rights, they're not going to go after popular people.
This is a very good point. This is a very good point. The people that win constitutional challenges are not always Miss Daisy. These are not Mother Teresa's. Sometimes some people that are morally depraved, that deserve every single bit of moral criticism. They deserve to be called pieces of shit. They deserve to be called assholes. They deserve to be held to the fire in the court of public opinion. But guess what? We have a constitution, and you know what? These things don't just apply to the guilty, they apply to the innocent as well. And as a lawyer, if I stand for one thing, if I can get worked up about one thing, it is about that principle. That in America, we need to stand for the rights. Even if you hate Nick and you think he is the devil, you think he is the worst person ever, you think he is worshiping Baphomet, I don't care what you think about Nick. It's going to apply to your grandma too. And if you can't apply this to your grandma, then you can't apply this to Nick Rekieta, right? This needs to apply to everybody, right? Regardless of what you think about them as a person.
They're not going to go after people who have the most perfect life history. For those that don't remember, Rush Limbaugh had his own addiction problems. Half of America will either have a personal close relationship with someone or themselves have an addiction problem at some point in their lifetime. That's so these people that get real judgmental, it's like, hold on a second, this is pretty darn common. Mark Robert does great work in terms of helping people. You can go to America's Untold Stories. He covers that. You can read his book about Rehab Nation. Mm-hmm. There's good stuff there. But on the law side, they're trying to eviscerate his constitutional rights. And I see all the law too that not talking about this. And it's like, to me, it was
what Barnes? What are you talking about, Barnes? I'm talking about it right now. Fuck you, Barnes. Fuck you. No, I'm joking. I only talked about the Second Amendment. But he brought up other good questions. He brought up the good Fourth Amendment, Sixth Amendment, Eighth Amendment, Fifth Amendment. And I truly do hope that the rest of the law too talks about those now. And I'm actually pretty convinced, because if I'm good at one thing on the internet, one thing I'm very good at is pissing off the rest of LawTube. I'm like the expert at triggering them. So I'm like, chef's kiss for pissing them off. And I've definitely.
This is very true, considering there's a little back and forth going between him and Viva and Barnes. So it's kind of true.
Definitely whack the hornet's nest now for LawTube, so they're going to respond. I guarantee, right? There's going to be other lawyers chiming in on this, and they should. And if they're bad arguments, if Robert Barnes is full of shit, people should debunk it. That's what they should do. That's the appropriate response.
Once I dug in, I was shocked at what I was seeing.
Well, especially in the context of that Umbrella guy's covering it. I mean, he's also concerned for what Nick he considers to be a friend. But like they called CPS on that Umbrella guy as well. Anonymous calls. Yes. Who knows what information the pastor is acting on? They've got 5 kids.
That's the Fourth Amendment issue. So I thought, okay, so first of all, and for people out there, when people get swatted, that's usually a Fourth Amendment violation by the government. The government can't rely on anonymous information, third-party information, hearsay information as their sole basis to go and take a ram and bang down your door in your house. Right? That's not what is allowed under the Fourth Amendment. You have to have probable cause of a crime, and under internal public policy, it's discouraged. We'll get to this when we talk about Trump and Mar-a-Lago. You got to be executing search warrants. Okay, search warrants should be for exceptional cases, right? That's drug dealer cases. How many times have you heard about search warrant being executed on a first-time alleged a drug user?
Now, this is something where, and I'm going to stop there. We're actually going to stop there with the analysis because I think that's good. He's gotten most of his main points by now. But the point is here is that that's a good factual case. So here's some homework. Nick haters, go look in Minnesota. Has this happened? Has a search warrant? Spurge out there, by the way, all those attorneys, whether you're a law tuber or not, find the case law. Has a similar search warrant been executed for a user that is a non-dealer? If you can find that, you disprove him or you prove Barnes. Is it right or not? I don't know. I'm not a Minnesota lawyer. I don't have the case law. It's not me. But I want to see that. That's the type of facts and case law I think that is on the table, that is good discussion, and is right for being debated by law too. Like, is that there or not? Do we have the facts or not? I don't know. I don't know that. Maybe he's right. Maybe he's wrong. I don't know. And people are saying in the chat, other lawyers are DMing me saying Barnes is wrong, Barnes is right. Prove it. Prove it. That's what I've got to say there. And by the way, in case you don't know, let's get back to a little bit of the basics of the amendments here. We talked about the, actually, no, not this one, not that view. We want to go to the audience view. Where is that? Here we go. So we have the 8th Amendment. We talked about that. Let's talk about the 6th Amendment. He brings up the 6th Amendment a lot. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed and which the district shall have been previously ascertained by law and informed of the nature and cause of the accusations, to be confronted by the witnesses against him and to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have assistance of counsel for his defense. So there you go. You've got all these things. Now, there's a question about assistance of counsel, because what happened with Nick, and Robert brought this up later, but he rambles too much, so I'm going to summarize what Robert said. So Robert made the argument that Nick stood as the attorney for Kayla and for April, and they denied him access to Kayla or April before they were largely like during the initial process. Right now, there was some access to Kayla before her arraignment, but Nick didn't even know that April was released. That's bad. That's a fucking bad look, and it looks bad under the 6th Amendment, because Nick should have been in the interim, despite the fact that he's quote unquote non-practicing. Right? Shout out to the non-practicing murder.
Again, later on, I'm not going to play it, but later on, they do end up talking. The lawyers and Legal Mindset and the other lawyers brought on, they do end up talking about this, and it seems to be on in their opinion that it's actually not unconstitutional, but it's not something that should happen with a lawyer that's representing a co-defendant, because the lawyer will ultimately put his own interests above his clients, and that's a conflict of interest, I believe they were saying. So, yeah. So, I mean, and I think I saw a lot of law tubers, they're saying that, like, they think that it was fine to do with the, like, just the arraignment, but afterwards, that Kayla, his wife, is going to have to get her own personal lawyer, and he can't continue representing her. That's what they were thinking, and I think that even later on in this video, when he was discussing with the law tubers, they were all saying, it's like, yeah, this isn't a thing that should be happening. It's it's a conflict of interest.
That I saw floating out there. He's still an attorney. So if they make the decision to accept Nick as their attorney, he's still their attorney. So he should have been given access to April right off the bat. Right off the bat. And Ron, I'll send you the link too. I'm going to send it to Gosney as well. Right. So that's a fair point. That's a fair point there. And it needs to be, once again, is that a valid point, or is that something that needs to be debunked? I think it needs to be discussed. I do think that needs to be discussed. I think it's a valid argument, and I think they should talk about it. Now, let's get back to some of my kind of more tangential points on this. So let's go back. I don't like that view. I like this view better. All right. So we've seen all that. We've seen these arguments. Is Rekieta off the hook? Does this get, let's say that these arguments are okay. Let's say that these arguments are good. Let's see that Barnes's arguments are good, which is making a huge presumption, right?
I think we're going to leave it there. Because it's just a little more into it. I don't think anything else is relevant to the analysis that he was doing. Because he just goes on to say, they can fuck it up by talking about it, by picking the wrong lawyer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's I think it's unimportant. So I think we're gonna end it here. I don't have as much time as I thought I was gonna have. I'll be back on later, probably around 9 Pacific time. Let me just add it. just changing my stream stuff. So I'll be on later around 9ish, and we will go over legal mindsets arguments for the search warrant. So yeah, we'll go over that. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you check out www.protocoli7.movie if you want to watch the movie that exposes Big Pharma, or a true whistleblower story about Big Pharma, and the latest film by Andy Wakefield. I hope you all check me out. I hope you have a good day. Peace out, and I'll see you in a little bit. Hope you have a good day. Peace out.